Happy January 30th. JLD here, and welcome to MicroStrategy today. In this show, we talk about a central bank buying $500 million worth of MicroStrategy, how February is often an awesome month for MicroStrategy. Will history repeat itself? We talk about FASB and the implications that FASB has, and we look at what happened with Tesla very recently. So very exciting things for MSTR when it comes to FASB. And then, of course, we talk about accretive dilution, and I really simplify it for you. There's a great graphic out there that really will help a lot of people when it comes to what accretive dilution is and why it's so powerful. And of course, I have two fantastic video clips of Michael Saylor you are not going to want to miss. This video is not financial advice, but if you do get value from this video, please pay it forward and comment below. Let me know where you're watching from. Give me feedback. We love that. Thank you so much. And let's dive on in to a Barron's article. This is Barron's having an article that says MicroStrategy stock has 50% upside. It's the Bitcoin effect. And then I just highlighted the one part I wanted to go into within this article. MicroStrategy's existence as an operating company has allowed it to access debt and equity capital markets for the purposes of raising money to purchase incremental Bitcoin. Finally, it seems that traditional finance is very slowly, very behind the ball. Finally, it seems like traditional finance is starting to get just a little bit of what MicroStrategy is doing. Watch out for the upcoming wave. The Central Bank of Norway disclosed holdings of MicroStrategy shares worth $500 million. If you want to read this whole article and obviously the Barron's ones as well, I will link it up in the show notes below. Let's move into a Michael Saylor tweet. Be cheerful and constructive at work. And I'm just going to go ahead and click on that so we can see that amazing image of Michael Saylor charging forward. Let's move into a post from Chris where he talks about accretive dilution simplified. Maximizing Bitcoin yield is one half of the long-term MicroStrategy thesis. Bitcoin yield is the percentage change period to period in Bitcoin per share and is driven by accretive dilution. MicroStrategy generates accretive dilution when the percentage increase in Bitcoin holdings outweighs the percentage increase in shares outstanding. For example, if Bitcoin holdings increase by 10% while shares outstanding increase by 5%, the dilution in shares is accretive because the result is a net plus 5% increase in Bitcoin yield. Now, here's the chart that the graph that he pulled up for this. It's a great graphic, and I just want people to realize that when the ATM is hit, when Michael Saylor is selling shares at the markets, and you want to complain about that because you think that it's keeping the price down, it might be keeping the price down a little bit short term, but it is doing so much benefit for the shareholders long term by increasing our Bitcoin yield that we have to embrace this. We have to love this. This is the main KPI from Michael Saylor and the MicroStrategy team. So if you don't love it and embrace it, you probably should sell MicroStrategy. And by the way, I have a video coming out on Saturday. The whole title of the video is You Should Sell MSTR If. And I address a lot of these questions in a lot more detail. So look out for that video. Make sure to share it with people who try to give you crap about MSTR, and let's drive forward. Chris says, updated. MicroStrategy versus alternative Bitcoin investment vehicles. If you're optimizing for ROI, there is no second best to MSTR. If you're optimizing for self-sovereignty, there is no second best to Bitcoin, or a mix of both, which of course is what I have, a mix of both. You can see, what does MSTR have that all these others don't have, or that most of them don't have? As you can see, just very few green checks. MicroStrategy, the largest corporate holder of Bitcoin, check. Downside protection, check. Financial leverage, check. Generates yields, check. No fees, check. Accretive dilution, check. International gateway, check. Deep liquidity, check. Deep options market, check. Index inclusion, check. Bitcoin bank potential, check. And of course, the four things it doesn't have is what Bitcoin has, which is 24/7 trading, self-sovereignty, no counterparty risk, and seizure resistance. So that's why the mix of both gives you green checks in all these lines. I love it. Let's move to a post from Matt. I was dreaming of $340 MSTR in August, and now we're here. Volatility is part of the game. It swings between very expensive and very cheap. If you YOLO in when it's expensive and complain when it swings to being cheap, that's on you. And the reason why I wanted to share this is, number one, you can see he's responding to this guy, Wes, who's writing underperforming, because Wes is clueless. He has not done the research. I can so clearly remember in August making a big purchase of MSTR. I was dollar cost averaging in, and it was at $135. And I was like, man, imagine when this doubles. It'll be so beautiful. And a double was 270. Like, I was dreaming of 270. And here we are at 340. I mean, again, it's time in the game. We have to remember that. Let's talk a year from now about where we're at. That's where the fun's going to really begin. Matt says, there are structural reasons why some months are better than others in markets. Here are a few for February. 1, earnings season ends and usually gives a positive view of the economy. 2, every 4 years, the inauguration takes place and the market digests the initial policy initiatives. 3, the Fed doesn't meet until mid-late March. 4, New Year capital flows. $750 by tax day. And then here's a great chart graph from Adrian, who's showing what MSTR has done over the past 5 years. As you can see, February is a very delightful month, obviously, as is October, November. But wow, February. Let's go. Let's talk about this post from Adam. Good morning, folks. It's a great day to buy more MSTR. MNAV of the Magnificent Seven companies versus MSTR. Now, people are always talking about the MNAV, especially the bears, like the MNAV should be one for MicroStrategy. Like, they love saying that. Well, Apple has a 50 MNAV, Microsoft 11, Google 6, Amazon 9, NVIDIA 39, Tesla 16, Meta 6, MSTR 1.6. Tell me which one again is overvalued. And those of us that know MSTR, that know MicroStrategy, we know how clueless 99.9% of even the financial world is when it comes to MicroStrategy. Just their lack of knowledge, their gap of understanding. Bullish. BitStrategy says MicroStrategy doesn't just have the first mover advantage. We have the first to 56th mover advantage. We have made 56 Bitcoin purchase announcements since adopting our Bitcoin strategy in August of 2020. The rest of the market has been left in the dust. I mean, think about that. 56 Bitcoin purchase announcements since August 2020, and it's 2025. Let's go. Adam says, this is massive for MSTR. With new FASB accounting rules, Tesla marked up their Bitcoin holdings and booked a $600 million gain. Tesla is now at 5% in after-hours trading, adding $60 billion of shareholder value. Just imagine when MSTR does the same. You are not bullish enough. What happens when they announce FASB? Boom, up and to the right. And again, that was up 5%, adding $60 billion of shareholder value. I want to say the Bitcoin holdings on their balance sheet made up 26% of all of their gains for this quarter. So incredible stuff. Just think about what FASB is going to do. And of course, let's end with Stack Hodler saying Bitcoin is behaving like a bullet train. It's stopping periodically to let long-term holders off. But as soon as the last genius has taken profits and given up their seat to institutional capital, Bitcoin teleports to the next station in the blink of an eye. Max pain is that it just keeps doing this for the next few years. And everyone who thinks they're selling at the top ends up handing their generational wealth for a fraction of its true value, all because they were tricked by Bitcoin's early adoption phase and didn't recognize the phase shift. They didn't realize that BlackRock, governments, corporations, and central banks are bidding for Bitcoin was fundamentally different than Stu Pedasso putting his payday loan into a basket of crap coins on Coinbase. Sure, maybe we get another typical cycle, but one thing is certain. The buyers this cycle are fundamentally different than previous cycles. There are many signs that the idea of Bitcoin as the ultimate store of value is catching on. The US president is buying Bitcoin. Central bankers are considering allocating to Bitcoin. Senators are talking about selling gold reserves to stack Bitcoin. The Fed and SEC have given their blessing for big banks to get involved. Custody, lending products, etc. It's all coming. The BlackRock ETFs were just the start of a long period of integration of Bitcoin into the traditional financial system. And when we look back 10 years from now, it will be clear that 2025 was still very early in the Bitcoin story. My goal isn't to scare you out of securing life profits when you hit life-changing numbers. The point of owning Bitcoin is to improve your family's quality of life. But if you do sell some stats, just make sure you're comfortable with never seeing them again. All right, let's move on to these two epic Michael Saylor video clips. Michael, take it away.
The number one thing I got from MIT was confidence and the ability to think for myself. That's the number one thing. My first serious formative memory of MIT is I walk into a material science class. There's 350 people in the lecture hall. The professor walks out, and he is a consultant for NASA. And he's the top of his profession. And he designed these tiles that went on the space shuttle. And he takes one of the tiles, and it's burnt. It's got streaks on it. He holds it up in front of the class. He says, you know, on the space shuttle's last reentry, this tile burned off the space shuttle. Nobody at NASA knows why, and we're not sure how to fix it. What do you think? Okay, and this is the first class, the first week, freshman year. We're all 18-year-olds, and it's a bunch of people that are like the class valedictorian from their various schools. And everybody looks at everybody, and there's a pregnant pause for 60 seconds. And you could see what's going on in people's minds, because first they're like, oh my God, is there a reading I missed? And the second thought is, wait a minute, the answer to this question is not in the back of the book. And the third, and then at some point, someone raises their hand and says, well, maybe we should reverse the composite lattices or change the material to something. And everybody goes, oh my God, that must be the bravest student in the world. And it dawns on all of us that this professor, who's the smartest in the world at what he does, working for the leading space agency in the world, doesn't have an answer to a fundamental problem. Has never been answered in the history of the human race. He's looking at a bunch of people. He expects you to think for yourself and figure it out. And he thinks maybe you can. And that idea that you can actually solve a problem for the first time in human history, and you're expected to do it, and they're going to give you all the basic tools, the math, the engineering disciplines, the scientific method to do it. I think that's enormously confidence building. If you're a Roman general and you have a trireme and has 300 rowers in it, then you're generating 30 horsepower. And if you have one of those dinky, like really small, dingy engines, you have a 70 horsepower engine behind your boat in the modern world. And we obliterated the need for for manpower and in so many areas. Typical cars got 300-400 horsepower. Think about the average person when they get 300 horsepower. It used to be 100 years ago, the rich person had 2 horsepower or 4 horsepower carriage, and we went to the point where a poor person has 400 horsepower. And I think AI is like that, where there's a lot of people that weren't able to generate perfect legal documents or prose or perfect business letters or a witty rap, and now anybody can. And in fact, the person that uses the AI will probably look more intelligent than the actual talented person that doesn't. And so in this particular case, there was a world where the strong could dominate the weak, and then we invented the gun, and then the weak with the gun became the strong. And if you were, you could spend your entire life, training in the martial arts. But at the end of the day, when you read the book, what should I do? Well, if you really need to defend yourself, you should get a gun.
And there you have it. Another episode of MicroStrategy today. Remember, this is not financial advice. And if you got value from this episode, the hard work that I put in every single day, please give this video a like, put a comment below where you're watching from, any feedback you want to give. It's very, very helpful. So thank you for that. Here's the receipt from my purchase of MSTR yesterday at 10:19 a.m. at the 336 price. I bought $211 worth. And as I shared earlier, every Saturday, I will be showing you the full DCA portfolio and what that looks like. And as Michael Saylor says, there is no second best.
What's the second best? There is no second best.